Alright, well, this is my Excel sheet for the entire business. This includes all of the channels. I mostly go to the Goodwill, or I was going to the Goodwill, now I go to the treasure hunt store. But over here I have all of the categories of items available for sale at the Goodwill. And then I have the pricing legend on the side here, and then that all gets correlated over here into the yellow section with the totals I've spent in each category. I've got sections for safe space, cause for pause. I don't go there much this year. I did go a lot last year. I've got my overhead costs here. The wares section is actually from the Goodwill. That's when I've purchased something that's individually priced. But mostly that's just the knickknacks. All the clothing is set pricing. And mostly I would go, you can see the bins here. Everything in the bin is $1.99, and that's where I spent most of my money at the Goodwill. Postage costs were quite high in the first 2 quarters, and then negligible after that. I was offering free shipping. I had seen quite a few YouTube videos that said to also offer free shipping. Unfortunately, that did end up costing a lot of money over time. I did build it into the cost of the item, but still it was costing a bit. On each individual item, it didn't seem like it cost much. It seemed like it would break even, but overall, it ended up costing a bit more. Yeah, that didn't work out very well. Mostly it was because I was discounting items. I was taking offers, and so I was selling items for less than I had originally intended, and so the free shipping wasn't really enough to cover it. In a few cases, I sold something with free shipping and ended up costing me money to ship it, where the item sold for far less than it would take to cover the cost of the shipping, and so it was just a complete loss. So I decided around June to stop doing free shipping. I haven't really seen my sales drop all that much after making that decision, so I was very happy with that. The next line item is payments. These are the payments I receive weekly on Fat Wallet Refugee. I get paid every Tuesday. And then that goes over onto the other side of the chart there. Payments received. And I've got payments for King's Castle, La Femme First, and Go for Less. And those are paid every month. And so I record the previous month when I get paid. So I just got paid in December, so I recorded November's payment. I won't know December's payment until January. And then I've just got the totals here. Just a little running total to keep me apprised of things. Although that is also going into the payments received over here. And you can see my net earnings, it's at $447 this year. Last year I was down about $30 come December, so I didn't really have a profit. And then further down I've got estate sales. I went to an estate sale in January, and I got a Terminator leather jacket and a small statue, a little tar heel statue. The statue sat around for quite some time before it finally sold, but I made a profit on that. I think I spent $5 on the statue, $35 on the jacket, and I sold the statue for about $30. The jacket went for $75. It had a Terminator leather patch on the inside, but once I got it home and looked at it more closely, I realized it had been sewn in. It wasn't the original patch. But when I pulled that back and looked at the original patch, the jacket was actually a vintage of a fair rarity, and so I was able to sell that for quite a bit, even though it wasn't a true Terminator jacket. I also made some purchases on Facebook Marketplace, resold some of those items. Not all of them sold. I do have quite a few denim jeans left over from a lot that I purchased from a gentleman. It didn't work out so well. And then Wholesale Ninjas, I purchased a box of goods from them after watching a Lindy Glenn video. I used her code. That was a very poor decision in hindsight. I'm still looking at a loss of maybe $98 on that purchase. They sent me a lot of items that were either about to expire, that were never intended for sale. lots of little junk items that weren't not worth nearly as much as the price per item for the box. There were 100 items for $280, so that's $2.80 per item. Some of the things they sent me just weren't even intended for sale. They were like little flyers and things. So it was a lot of junk. Some of the items I couldn't legally sell, and then other items they expired shortly after I listed them. Which was well, I've got a write up about that on my blog at fatwalletrefugee.com. You can just look up Wholesale Ninjas there, and you'll find that. Put a little review up. Very ill-pleased. I've got the next section in the blue down here. These are my purchases from the treasure hunt store. I don't have any Friday or Saturday purchases in here. Those Friday is $12 an item. Saturday is like $10 an item, and then Sunday is $5. Or no, Sunday is around 7 or 8. Monday is $5. Tuesday is $3, and Wednesday is $1. I usually go on Wednesday and just pick up clothes. I was getting water filters and home improvement goods for King Castle, but a water filter you only need to change those like once every 6 months, so that's not such a great one to buy. Not a whole lot of sales on that. Plus there's lots of saturation on eBay, lots of competition. A lot that's just sitting in a bag. That's it'll be there forever and ever. They do charge service fees if you use a credit card, and there's a bag fee if you don't bring your own bag. I've got that over here in the legend. The pricing per day is in there, and then the total I've spent here. So I spent $26.25 on the service fees. Now that service fee number I believe also does include the bag fee. I put them together. Oh no, wait, no I didn't. Bag fee is down here below. $1.75. And then payouts. Fat Wallet Refugee is receiving payouts every Tuesday, so weekly payouts. So the first quarter did fairly well, and then after that it started to taper off. I did go on a vacation in October. Went to visit my father in Washington, and I had paused the store, so there were the last 2 weeks I didn't have any payments there. And when I got back, it was pretty slow. And I also enrolled in the Liberis revenue purchase agreement, so I received a $600 sort of cash advance. There was a $79 origination fee, and I agreed to give them 30% of my daily revenue. That was through eBay. So far I've paid off about 14% of that. Probably would have been more if I had better sales during this last quarter. But supposedly, by their estimates, I should have the cash advance paid off by sometime around May or June next year. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully sales will pick up and I'll be able to make those payments. Oh, and then over on the side here, I do have my mileage deduction for my car from the miles driven. The amount that I spent on charging, I take about 80% of my charging expenses, and that's what I put towards my taxes. And then for the phone and printer use, 60%. I rarely go out in the car other than to go to the Goodwill or the treasure hunt store, so that's why it's 80%. I assume that I must be doing some pleasurable driving outside of work, so 20% for that. And then there's recording here for taxes and donations. I always do the roundup when I'm at the Goodwill. And then on the expenses sheet here, this is where I record the donations and taxes, and then shipping, supplies, and other costs here. There is a section here for ink recycling. This is actually, this isn't going into my accounting for the business. Well, not quite. I do mark that I spent money on purchasing the cartridges, the ink cartridges. I buy ink cartridges at the treasure hunt store, and then there's a center where I can take them for recycling. and I get $2.50 for every cartridge that I recycle. So that's been a way to sort of bring in some money on the side. But I don't count that as business earnings. I probably should, though. I have to think about that when I do my taxes next year. And then I have this inventory, but there's nothing really in it. This was my original inventory sheet, but once I started separating into the separate storefronts, then I just sort of started deleting items from the spreadsheet, and I created new spreadsheets for the other individual stores. And so everything's skewed, everything in the other room in the bags on the floor, those are all skewed, and so I can just go and look for the right pile, dig through it until I find the item I'm looking for, and then just mark it off on here. I haven't gone through recently to update the sold listings in here, so this isn't an accurate number for La Femme First. I believe that number should be in the positive. It says negative 184. Golf for Less is currently updated with the sold items. Looking at a profit of $60 there. So in this spreadsheet, I've made a note of how much I spent on each individual item for Golf for Less. And the same for King's Castle. There's a note of how much I spent on each item, and then how much I got in profit afterwards, $44.52. So I just need to update the information for La Femme First, and then I'll have a better number in there. Now I don't know if this negative 184 is actually being reflected in the net earnings. I'd have to go and check and see if I've got that linked, because I may have made more. And then the Wholesale Ninjas boxes here. These are all the items that I received. I've got 91 items listed here. There are 9 items that they weren't intended for individual sale or anything, so I just didn't include them. So like 9 things that it was trash. I've spent $33.88 on return fees. A couple of things I sold, they were spoiled. I checked inside some of the boxes, but not all the boxes. Some of the Burt's Bees items were spoiled. They had gone rancid. There's no dates on those items. So I had to pay quite a bit in return fees. And then I had mislabeled one of the medicines I sold. There was the Diamond Tap. I had listed as an 8 ounce, and it was actually a 4 ounce. So there was also return fees on that. That one was my mistake. I suppose the rancid items was also my mistake to some degree. I didn't check all of the boxes. But yeah, I'm still down like $90 on this one. Some of the items I kept, like the lip balm, because I just couldn't possibly envision being able to sell that for $2.80 at a minimum. The Mucinex expired. The 2 of these Diamond Taps, they expired. The 4 ounce medicines, I was able to resell them after the refund to another customer, but it was still a bit of a loss there. There's some face items that I sold some. The sports drink powder, that sold right away. That was alright. They sent me a bunch of Burt's Bees items. Some of them sold, some of them didn't. Some of them spoiled. And then some other items had a partial sale where I kept them. Yeah, but otherwise, all in all, I really wouldn't suggest doing Wholesale Ninjas. That was just a really poor decision. I understand some people have had good success with that, and Lindy seemed to talk them up quite a bit. But my experience was quite terrible, and I wouldn't use them again. But that's just my experience, my opinion. Take it for what you will.